Hi guys, you're welcome back to the channel. It's Peppy Styling here. So today we're going to be making this beautiful palazzo pants and a crop top. Okay, so let's get right into it. Okay, so first off we'll be cutting the palazzo. Okay, so I'm taking my measurement from waistline to hip line, and if you notice I subtracted about 1.5 from the waistline. Okay, because I'll be adding a band to this pant. Okay, so I measured from waist to hip line, that's 9, and then crotch length. Okay, so the crotch length, to determine your crotch length, you divide your hip divided by 4, hip circumference divided by 4, and if you're on a plus size, I will advise you add about 1.5 inch for ease. I usually add 1 inch for ease. Okay, so here I've measured from my waistline to hip line, crotch line, and then knee line, and the full length of the palazzo. Coming over to our hip line, okay, we're going to be marking our hip circumference divided by 4. Okay, and we'll also mark the same thing on the crotch line as well, and then I'll be adding 1.5 for seam allowance. Okay, so whatever we have here, we're going to measure the same thing on the waistline as well. Okay, and then we'll connect it with a straight line just like so. Okay, so for the crotch extension, okay, I'm going to be measuring this, dividing this part by 4. Okay, and I got about 3.2 inches, and I'm going to mark it here, and from this point I will come up by 1 inch and then connect to form the crotch curve. Okay, on the waistline I'm going to be coming in by 1 inch, and then I'm going to connect it back to our crotch curve. Okay, so from this point I'll be taking my waist measurements. Okay, waist circumference divided by 4. Okay, I marked it here, and then I'll be adding 1.5 for seam allowance. Okay, and on the hip line I will come up by 1 inch, and then I will connect this two together just like so. So still on the waistline, I'm going to come down from this point by 1 inch, and then I'm going to connect it just like you see me doing here. Okay, so from this point I'm going to divide it into 2, okay, to get our grain line. So whatever I have here, I'm going to be taking the same measurement all the way to the hemline. Okay, and then connect it with a straight line. This line will be serving as our grain line. Okay, so the wideness of your palazzo totally depends on how you want it to be. Okay, so for me I will be marking 7 inches on both sides of the grain line, starting from the knee line. Okay, so I will mark the same thing all the way to the hem. Okay, you can decide to make yours wider, or you can decide to make it slimmer. It's totally up to you. Okay, and on this part I came inwards by 1/2 inch, and then I'm going to connect it back to our hip line just like so. Okay, okay, so here I'm just connecting the lines. Okay, and then I'll connect this one to our crotch as well. Okay, I'm using a slight curve, do not make it straight please. Okay, so the next thing, I'm going to be cutting this out. Okay, so to cut the back piece, okay, I'll place my fabric on fold. Okay, and I'll place the front. Okay, leaving some space at the top this side, and also about 3 inches on this other side as well. Okay, so what I'm going to do first is to extend this line, the crotch line, knee line, the full length as well, and I also did the same for this other side as well. Okay, so from the center front, okay, using it as a guide, we're going to be coming inwards by 1 inch. Okay, I'm going inwards by 1 inch, and I'll mark 2 inches upwards. Okay, remember we removed 1 inch from the front waistline. Okay, we're going to be adding extra 1 inch to the back. Okay, making it a total of 2 inches. And then you're going to tilt your tape this way, and then you're going to mark your waist circumference divided by 4. Okay, and I'm adding 1.5 for seam allowance, and also I'm going to be adding 1 inch for that. Okay, so adding that is totally optional, you can decide not to. Okay, but I'll be adding that to the back. So I'm going to connect this just like you see me doing here. Okay, so on this part I will be adding 1 inch from the hip line. I'll be adding 1 inch all the way to the hemline, and then I'm going to connect it just like so. So coming over to this crotch line, I'm going to be extending it by 2.5. Okay, you can either use 2.5 or 3 inches, and on this line I will come down by 1/2 inch. Just at that point I marked 2.5. Okay, then on this curved area I'm going to come out by 1 inch, and then we're going to connect from the waist all the way to this point here. Okay, so from the knee line we're going to mark 1 inch all the way to the hemline. Okay, so I'll be marking 1 inch all the way to the hem of this pant, and then I'm going to connect it with a straight line, and then I will connect the knee line to the crotch just like you see me doing here. And next is to cut this out. Okay, so bringing our front piece, okay, I'm going to be marking 2 inches on this waistline. Okay, this is where we're going to be attaching our pockets. Okay, so I marked 2 inches and I'll go downwards by 8 inches, and then I'm going to connect it with a straight line just like so. Okay, this is where we're going to be attaching our pockets. Okay, so here I'm cutting out the pocket piece. Okay, so I have this fabric that is folded into two, and I'll cut it open just like so, right sides facing each other and right side facing each other. Okay, so moving over to the crop top. Okay, so I place my fabric on fold. I will be cutting the front and the back together. So this part is going to be the zipper allowance, and the one on top will be for the front. Okay, so here I'm just cutting the zipper allowance open. Okay, so our measurement will be starting from here, not the zipper allowance, from the center front. Okay, so here I'm marking my shoulder divided by 2. Okay, and then I'm going to come down by 1 inch. Okay, this will be serving as our shoulder slope. And for the neck width, the wideness of the neck, I'm using 2.75. okay, and for the neck depth I'm using 3 inches for the front. Okay, this for the front. So for the back I'm using 1.5 for the neck depth for the back. So I'm just going to connect it just like so, and then connect for the front neckline as well, and then I'm going to mark the shoulder slope. Okay, so next is to mark our armhole line. Okay, so to get that, you're going to divide your bust divided by 6 plus 1.5. okay, so I've gone ahead to mark that, and next I will be marking the length of this top. Okay, remember it's a crop top, so it's going to be a little shorter than the usual top length. Okay, so I've gone ahead to mark that, and I will be adding 2 inches for seam allowance. Okay, so on that armhole line I'm going to mark bust circumference divided by 4. I added 1 inch for ease, and I'll be adding extra 1 inch for seam allowance, and then I'll extend the line all the way to the waistline. Okay, and then mark our armhole curve. And next is to cut this out. Okay, so I'll be cutting out the back neckline first. Okay, and then I will take out the back and cut the front neckline. So guys, please, if you're here to subscribe to my channel, please kindly hit on the subscribe button. Okay, turn on the notification bell to get notified each time I post. Okay, so here I'm cutting out a facing for the neckline. I'll be using facing to turn the neckline. Okay, you can decide to use a bias tape. Okay, but for this one I'll be using a facing. So I'll be cutting this for the front, and I'll also cut for the back neckline as well. Okay, so moving over to the sewing part, we're going to be sewing the palazzo first. So here I'm placing my pocket piece on the front part of this trouser. Okay, I'm going to go and stitch this down with 1/2 inch. Okay, so this is it when I'm done, and I also top stitch on the pocket piece. Okay, so here I'm gonna have to iron it down. So what I'm going to do now is to place this facing on top. Okay, making sure that the right side is facing out. Okay, so now I'm going to go and stitch it just like so. Okay, so this is it when I'm done stitching it down, and when you turn it over to the right side, this is what it looks like. As you can see, our pocket is forming already. Okay, so I'm going to hold this down on this part with pin for now. Okay, and I'll also do this for the second leg of the front piece. I'm just trimming out the excesses I have around the waist. Okay, so this is the two of them here. So next thing I'm going to do now is to go and join this on the crotch curve. Okay, with 1/2 inch. Okay, so this is it when I'm done. Okay, and I've also gone ahead to join the back piece as well. Okay, and I also stitch the darts in place. So the next thing I'm going to do now is bring in the front piece. I'll place the back on it. Okay, just like so, and I'm going to go and close the sides with 1 inch. Okay, 1 inch seam allowance. I will go and close up the sides. Okay, so this is it when I'm done. Okay, so next thing I'm going to do now is come over to this part, placing these 2 points together, making sure that the 2 lines aligns with each other. Okay, I'm going to go and stitch it all the way to the hemline. Okay, so what I usually do is around this part I use 0.75 when stitching it, and when I'm approaching the knee line I'll extend it to 1 inch and then sew it all the way to the hemline. Okay, so this is it when I'm done stitching it, looking all nice and neat. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do now is to come over to this waist. Okay, so I left this opening where I'll be attaching my zipper. Okay, so this is the band I'll be attaching to this pant, and it measures 2.5 unfold. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do here is to hold this with a pin. So I'm going to go and stitch this all the way and stop at the joining by the side. Okay, for the front I will stitch it and stop at the joining at the side. Okay, so when I'm done, the remaining part, the back part, is going to have this elastic at the back, and this is the easiest way, the easiest method I use to attach it. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I'm going to pass this elastic in between, okay, in the band. Okay, and I'm going to hold it with a pin. Okay, remember it's starting from the side. Okay, so here I'm going to draw this. You're going to draw it a bit so that when you leave it, it's going to give you this firmness around your waist. So I'm just going to drag it just like so, and then I'm going to also hold this with a pin and then cut out the excess I have there. Okay, so please note that there are other ways you can do this, okay, but this is the easiest method I use and it works very well for me. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is to go and finish sewing this around the waistline. Okay, remember we stopped at the side, so while you're sewing, remember to be dragging it. Okay, so this is what I have when I'm done. Okay, and on this part, remember that on the side we held it with a pin where the elastic started, so we're just going to go and stitch it straight like this to hold the elastic in place, and also do the same for this side. Okay, and then I'm going to run a stitch in the middle of the waistband, making sure that the elastic is in place. Okay, so when I'm done, this is what it looks like. When you're stitching it, please be drawing it. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do now is to go and attach my zipper to that side and finish up the down part of this part. Okay, so coming over to the top part, okay, I'm going to go and turn the neckline with the facing and also do the same for the back neckline as well. Okay, so this is it when I'm done. Okay, and I've gone ahead to iron it flat. So the next thing we're going to do is to get the back piece. Okay, placing them right sides facing each other. I'm going to go and join them on the shoulder with 1/2 inch. Okay, so what I usually do is I place the two of them right sides facing each other. Okay, making sure that this ends meet, and I will take one of the facing and push it over to the other side, and then I'm going to go and stitch it with 1/2 inch. So this is it when I'm done stitching it down. So you want to cross check your shoulder, your armhole, and the rest of it. Okay, so now I'm going to be attaching the sleeve. Okay, so I'll just open this up and I'll be attaching this sleeve. I have a detailed tutorial on how to cut a basic sleeve. Okay, I will be linking it in the description box. Okay, do well to check it out. So the next thing I'll do now, I've gone ahead to attach this sleeve. Next thing is to close up the sides with the seam allowance that we added. Okay, so this is it when I'm done. Okay, the next thing is to go and finish up the down part and also add zipper. Okay, so this is the finished look, looking all beautiful. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. To my returning subscribers, I love you guys so much. See you guys in my next. Bye.